Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. Now in this video guys, I'll be teaching you how to read and write from a text file. Now let's go ahead and create a new Java project. It's a Java application. Now let's name our application file IO. Now let's click finish. Now guys, before we start coding, let us remove all the comments. Let's clean our classes. Let's remove all the comments. And then now after that, I'll zoom in a little bit so that everyone can see. And now guys, I want to create a subclass. I'm gonna create a new class. I'm gonna call this class display class. It's this display class. And then again I'll click finish. Now guys, again let's remove all the comments in this class. Zoom in a little bit. Now guys, I'm going to use this display class to display all the information I'm going to get from a text file, but then I want to create a separate class that's going to read and write from a file. So now let's just create another class. We call this one file manager. Then let's click finish. Now again in this class, let's remove all the comments. We'll zoom in. There we go. Now guys, again I want to use this file manager class to read and write from a text file. Then now I'm gonna use this display class to display all the information I'm going to read from the file using this class. Now guys, I want a relationship between the two classes, this display class and file manager class. Now I want to say now this file manager class is going to be a parent to a display class. So now meaning this display class should extend this file manager class. So now this file manager class, since it's going to read and write from a text file, now I want to make this class an abstract class. Now I want to make this file manager what an abstract class. Now since this file manager class is an abstract class, I want to at least include one abstract method. So I'm going to say now this is gonna be my abstract method. It's going to be public. Now it's an abstract what's happening now is an abstract class. Come on, it's abstract class. There we go. Now this class this method is gonna be a void. It's an abstract class, it's void. Then I'm gonna call it display. There we go. Now I have an abstract method called display. Now guys, since this display class inherits from a file manager class and our file manager class is an abstract method, now we need to implement all the abstract method. So now guys, I'm not going to hard code that because I have a shortcut that can implement the abstract method for us. So to do that guys, let's go ahead and click on this light bulb over here, this hint. Let's click it. Then it's going to give us an option to implement all the abstract methods. So I'm going to select this option. Then it's going to create this abstract method for us. So this abstract display method is implemented. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove this statement inside this display method like that. There we go. Now see, it's done. Now guys, let's go to our file manager class. Now that we are done with this abstract method, now I want to create another method that will write to a file. So I'm going to create a method to write to a file. Now guys, I want this method to be public because I want to access this method in outside classes. So I'll let it be void since I don't want this method to return any value. So I'll call it write to file. It's a write to file. It's a write to file. There we go. It's a method. Then I need brackets and curly brackets. There we go. Now guys, since we are using text files, since we are going to write to a text file using this method, so now in this method we need a try and catch statement. So I'll say now I want to use my try and then I'll use my catch. So it's going this one, a catch statement. And then now in case if I have exception, then I'm going to use IO. So now if I have any exceptions, now I'm going to use JOption pane dot, I want to show a message dialog. Then now in our message dialog, okay, now before I do that, let me just space things up, move this to the next line, and I'll move this to a new line. So now in JOption pane, now guys, if I have any exceptions, I'm gonna use JOption pane to display that exception. So now in JOption pane, for a first argument I'll pass a null. For parent component I'll pass a null, and then now for a second argument, now I want to display my IO. Now that guys we are done with our catch statement, now let's go to our try. Now guys, to write to a text file I need a file writer object. So now this object is going to allow us to write to a file. So now let's go ahead and use this object. I will call it file writer. So now let's give our object a reference. I'm going to call it my file writer, like that. So now say it's gonna be new file writer. There we go. Now guys, let's add imports for our object. I'll say now add imports for file writer. There we go. Now guys, this file writer object, it takes an argument. Now this argument is a string argument, and this argument is for a path or a location of our text file. So guys, I don't want to save this file anywhere in my computer, but I want to save it in this project that we are working on. So guys, to do that, now in our resource packages, I want to create a new package. Now I want to call this package files. Now guys, I want to save all the text files that I'm going to use in this project in this package. So now since it's on resource folders, I want to say now in resource folders in src there's a package called files, and then in this package called files I want to create a text file called a data file. Then the extension for text file is .txt. So now in resources there's a package called files, and then inside this package called file there's a text file called data file. So now guys, I'm going to use my object reference. Now using this object reference, you can say now this object reference dot write. We're gonna use this dot write method to write to this text file. So now I'm gonna pass in a string to this method. Now this string is gonna be my name. I'll say Emmanuel. I want to write Emmanuel to my text file. So guys, this is what you should remember, ne? Each and every time when you write or you read to a text file, you should make sure that you close the file in case if other applications or there's a method anywhere in your code that uses the text file, the same text file. So you should always close the file after using it, so that other application can be able to access the text file. So now I'll close this file since I'm done writing my name into it. After that I'll close it. Now guys, to execute this function, now we'll have to call this function in our display class. Now to call this write to file function in our display class, now we need a constructor in our display class. So now let's just quickly create this constructor. Now it's gonna be public, then we are gonna say it's the public, then the name of a class. Copy that, paste it to avoid errors. Just gonna use copy and paste. There we go. Then let me just leave a comment here. I'll say this one is implemented method. There we go. Now again guys, I'm gonna copy the name of this method, which is write to file. Copy that. Now I'm gonna call this method in our constructor. Inside our constructor I'll say paste. Now I'm calling this write to file method. And again guys, to execute this class, now I'll have to create an object of this class inside our main class. So I'll say new, the name of a class I want to call, which is display class. Then there we go. Now guys, let me explain this. What I'm doing here, basically I'm calling this class called display. I'm executing this class, and again now guys, when I execute this class called display, when it gets to this class guys, it's going to execute our constructor. Now when it automatically execute our constructor, now inside our constructor we have a function called, which is write to file. So now meaning now when we execute our constructor, we are going to execute this function. Now when we execute this function, when it gets to this side, to this function called write to file, we are going to execute everything that is inside this write to file function. And then we have a try and catch statement that is going to write to our text file. Now guys, so far we don't have anything or any file in our files package, but then now when we run this application, this text file, it should be automatically created for us, and then inside the text file we should get this name written. So now guys, let's execute this application and test and see if everything is working. I'll just run it, and it says build successful. So now guys, let's go to our project. Now in our file package, now if you can check this package, it turned a brown. So if we can open this package, there's a text file called data file. Now inside this data file text file, there's a name written Emmanuel. There we go. So now so far everything is working perfect. So guys, since we are writing to a text file and we see that this function is working, now that I want to read from a text file. So now guys, let's use another method, a separate method. Now this method, I'll call it, let me just leave a comment. I'll say method to read from a file. There we go. Now again guys, I'll set this method to public. It's gonna be public because I want to access this method in outside classes. Then this one guys is gonna be a string, not a void, because I want to return everything that I'm going to read from a text file. So I'll name this one read from file. Now this is my function. There we go. Now again guys, since we are reading from a file, now I need to cover everything in try catch statement. Say try, and I can say catch, then I'll say exceptions. If I have exception, IO, like that. Again, if we have any exceptions, and then I want to display those exceptions in JOSHN pane. Now again, I want to show a message dialog. Now for parent component, I'll pass in a null. Then now I want to display this IO. There we go. Then I'm space things up a bit. And then now guys, I'm having this error here because I have to return something. Here I just have to return something so that we can get rid of this error, but then we'll get back to this problem later. So now guys, that we want to read from a text file. So now let's use another object. Now this object, we call it read, we're gonna call it file reader. Now let's give this object a reference, and name this object reference my file reader. New file reader. There you go. Now guys, let's add imports for file reader. There you go. Now again guys, this object guys, it takes an argument. This argument is going to be a string argument. Now again guys, this argument is going to be a location or path of our text file, and we all know that this text file, it's in resources, it's src. Now there's a folder inside src that it's called files. Then now inside this files folder, there's a text file called data. Sorry, it's called data file.txt. But then guys, to avoid errors, let's just copy this text over here as it is. Then I'm going to paste it in my file reader, just like that. There you go. And now guys, I want to use this object reference to read from a file. Oh sorry, I'm pasting it. I'm gonna say Control C to copy. There we go. Now I want to use this object reference to read from a file. But then now guys, if I use this object reference as it is to read from a file, now it's going to return a number, an integer instead of what, of a string. Now guys, for us to avoid it, now to read a text not an integer, so let's just use a buffered reader object. So now again, this object needs a reference. I'm going to call it my buffered reader. Now I'm going to say this buffered reader, it's an object. I'll say buffered reader. There we go. Now let's add imports to our buffered reader. We are adding imports for buffered reader. Now guys, this buffered reader object, it takes an argument, and this argument is gonna be our file reader, because we want a buffered reader of this text file. So now guys, I'm going to use this buffered reader object reference to read from a text file. So I'm gonna say now, using this buffered reader object, I'll say this dot read line. There we go. Then again guys, remember, each and every time when you use a file, you have to close it after. Once you are done reading or writing, you have to close it. Now guys, I have to return whatever I'm reading from this text file. Now guys, to do that, now let me just introduce or declare a local variable. Let me say a variable to hold data from file. So it should be an E here. There we go. Now I'll say now this one is going to be a string, because we want to read a text that is in this text file. It's going to be a string. Then I'm going to call it data from file. Now that guys, I want to assign everything that I'm reading from a text file into this variable. So I'm going to say now this variable is going to be assigned with this information that we are going to read from a file. So now again guys, since we have data assigned or a value assigned into this variable, so I'll just simply return the variable just like that. So it's a string, it's data from file. So now guys, let me say now when we declare this this variable, let's just say this variable for now is gonna be this gonna be empty. Yep, it's gonna be empty when we declare it. Then now we're going to assign it. And then after we are going to assign the information that we are reading from a text file into this variable. Then we return that variable. Now guys, let's test this method if it's working. Now since we have a Emmanuel written in our data file text file, so now I just want to call this read from file function and see if we can get this information. Now in my display class, I'll just remove this write from file function, this write to file function. Now I want to call this display. I want to call this display function so that it can get executed. So now when we call this display function, when we execute it, I want it to display this JOption pane. Now I want to show the message dialog. Now for parent component, I'll pass in null, and again I want to display what we are reading from a text file, and then the function that reads from a text file is called read from file. I'm just going to copy that to avoid errors. Now I want to paste it over here in my JOption pane, because I want to display everything that we are reading from file. So now guys, let's run this application and test if we're gonna get any errors. Nope, there's no error. And there we go. This is our message box, and we're reading from a text file, and then we get what the word Emmanuel, and this Emmanuel is what we have in our text file. Now everything is working perfect. So now I'll stop this application from running. I'll say yes. There we go. Now guys, what if I want to read and write into a text file at the same time. Now guys, now let's say we want a user to input a value, then we take that value, we are writing into a text file, then after that we are going to read from a text file and display whatever the user is inputted. So guys, to do that now, let's say now in our display class, in our constructor, let's just remove that function. No, let's not remove it, but we're gonna need it when I call this function. Let's just remove it here. Sorry, let's just leave it here. Then now, before we call this function, before we call this display function, now what I want to do is I want to get a user input. Then now when I take that input, I'm gonna write it to a text file. Then after that, I'm gonna display the information that is in a text file. But then now guys, I don't want to get only one input from the user. I want the user to keep on inputting the names unless now the user inputs the word quit. Then after a user enters the word quit, then it should what jump to display and display everything that we wrote to a text file. So guys, to do that now, since I want a multiple values, now I'll use a loop, and this loop is gonna be a while loop. So now while a user is inputting, I'll say now while a user is inputting, so I wanna get this input using a JO shin pay. I say I wanna show a message, sorry, an input dialog this time. Since we are getting an input from user, I want to use an input dialog. So now let's say we wanna prompt the user to enter a name like that. Now guys, as long as a user inputs a value that is not equals to quit, guys, listen to me now, pay attention. Now guys, while a user inputs, remember now guys, this statement is going to what, to get the value from the user, né? Now while this value we are getting from the user, it's not equals to quit. So when I say now while this value it's not, there's an exclamation mark here that says not. While this value we are getting from the user, it's not dot equals to, now I'll say equals ignore case. As long as this value we are getting from the user, it's not equals to this word quit, we're gonna continue what, getting this user input, as long as a user inputs anything that's not equals to quit. And now guys, we want to take this value we are getting from the user. This statement is going to get the value from the user. Now when I get this value again, we want to assign this value into a variable. Now this variable, guys, let's go ahead and declare it. This variable, we're going to declare it, let's make it a global variable. I want to say this variable is going to be a what, a variable to hold input. So I'm gonna say this variable is gonna be a private, then it's gonna be a string, then I'm going to call it a user input, since it's gonna hold the user input. So now when I say, now I'm gonna take whatever the user is inputting using J option pane. Now I'm gonna assign that input into this user input variable. I'm gonna assign it. So now guys, for this thing to be a single string, now we have to cover this statement with opening and closing bracket from here to there. So now this whole thing is a string, this one. Now again guys, while we are getting this information from the user, or the input from the user, I want to take this input and pass it to this function, to this write to file function. Let me copy it, then go to our constructor and paste it. Now I want to pass this user input to our write to file function, like that. Now since we are passing this value to our write to file function, now in our file manager class, now in our write to file function, we need another parameter that will accept the value. Now to do that, I'll say now this is going to be a string, then I want to say it's a value. Now that guys, we are getting this value again. Now I want to use this value we are getting from the user as a user input. Remember, it's passed through this function. Now I'm gonna get this value. Now I want to take this value and write it to a text file. When I get this value passed, and I'm going to write it to a text file. Now let's go to our display class method. We shouldn't have any error here. There we go. The error, it's gone. Now guys, we are getting this user input. We are getting this user input. We are assigning it into this variable. Now since this variable have a new value assigned, when I take that variable, when I pass it into this function called write to file. Now this function called write to file is going to take this user input passed into a text file as a passed value. Now again guys, we want to write these new information on top of the old information, on top of the old data. So now guys, to do it now, we want to take this information we are reading from a text file. Now before we write this a new value, now let's say now in this write to file function, let's just declare another variable. Let me say I'm gonna call it's a variable to hold old data. So I'm gonna say now it's gonna be a string, and I'll hold it. I'm gonna call it let me say it's existing file data. Now when I say now I want to take everything that it's in this read from file, and then I'm gonna say, okay, let me say I want to take everything that we are reading from a text file, assigning it into our what, into our existing file data variable. Everything we are reading from a text file is gonna be assigned into our into this variable. Again guys, I want to take this variable. Now when we write a new value into a text file, we should also include the old information, the old data, the existing data, so that this information, it won't replace the old data, but right on top of the existing data. So now guys, if we can go to our display class. Okay, now we did call this display method. I wanted to see if this function is going to execute, and yes, it's going to execute. Now this function guys is going to execute when we are what, when we are done looping here. As long as the user inputs a name, we are what, keep on passing this user input until the user enters the word quit. Then if a user enters the word quit, we are what, we are going to exit this while loop and display and execute this display function. Then when we execute this display function, we are going to display everything that it's in a text file. So now guys, let's run this application and see if we're gonna have any errors. Now it says enter a name. Now guys, remember in our text file we already have the word Emmanuel. So now let's say this time we want to write Natasha. So now in our text file we should have Natasha and Emmanuel. Now let's say I want to say okay. Now this time I want to say quit. Say okay. Now there we go. In our text file now we have what, Natasha and Emmanuel. Now Emmanuel is in old data. Now we added a new value which is gonna be our what, our Natasha. But then now guys, if you can check the spacing, now everything it's written in one line. So now guys, let's use a spacing in between, or let's write this a new value in the next line. So guys, instead of having this value like this, I want everything to be in the next line. So guys, to do that now, let me just remove this Natasha for now. Then I'll just remove this space again, and I'll leave Emmanuel. Then I'll save the file. I'll hold Control and click S. Now let's go back to our file manager. Now in my file manager, each and every time when I write to a text file guys, I want to write the new info or the new value in the next line. So to do that guys, I'll say now this, I'll use a string concatenation. Now in each and every time when you write a new value, I want to leave a line /n. it's gonna write a new value, then leave a line, then you're gonna write the old data. And again guys, since everything is written in a separate line, now in our in our read from file function, now we need a loop. Now this loop guys is going to loop our text file, and then it's gonna go through in each and every line. So guys, to do it now, when I say now in our try statement, now before we close this file, we have to add, we have to say now while, there we go. Now when I say now while these data from file, while we are reading from a text file and taking that information into our data from file variable. Now I want to say now this statement, I want to take it inside my while loop. Then now I'll say now while this data from file variable, it's not equals to null. As long as this data from file variable is not equals to null, I want to keep on executing this function. Now that again guys, I need another variable. Now I'll need another variable. It's gonna be a string variable. Now I'm gonna call this one let me say I'm gonna call this one data. Let me say data from file. Data from file 2. Okay, say now that, there we go. Now guys, I want to use another variable called data from file 2. Now this one guys is going to collect all the values we are reading from a different lines, all the data we are reading from different lines. So now I'll say now this data from file 2 variable, I'll say now it's gonna be what? It's gonna be equals to, it's gonna be equals to what? Everything that we are reading from this text file. So now I say now this variable is gonna hold all the data we are reading in each line. So I'll say now plus equals to this data from file. And then now let's say everything is gonna be in the next line. So I'll say now this everything, I'll say plus string concatenation. I'll say I just wanna separate everything in line. So I'll say now /n. So now again guys, this data from file 2, we are assigning everything that we are reading from this text file. Now we have plus equals to, this means now we are adding all the data we are reading in each line. It's like we are assigning everything we are reading from each line in this variable. We are not replacing, because without this plus, meaning will replace everything that we assign here with a one word we are currently assigning. So to avoid it, we want to add it, want to assign everything into this variable. So that's why we have plus equals to. So now that guys, we are done with this part over here, and then after we exit, we want to close the file. So now guys, let's test this application. Let's just run it and test. Run the application. There we go. Now again, remember we still have a Emmanuel only. So now let's add Natasha again. Natasha. Say okay. Now let's add another value. Let's say this time I add Tabo. I'll say okay. Then I'll say quit. Now it says there is no message. Okay, now let's check our text file. Now in our text file we have Tabo and null. Okay, now guys, this plus equals to is going to return. Okay, now guys, the reason why we don't have anything in our the reason why we don't have any output in our display method, now it's because now we are still returning this single value. So now if this data from file, we are returning this data from file. Remember now we have new lines and we are reading each line. Now when we reach the last line, which is null, it's gonna return that null. So to avoid that guys, let's just return this data from file 2 instead of data from file, because this data from file 2, it contains all the information that we are reading from text file in each line. So when I say now this data from file 2, we are going to return it. Now let's say now let's remove this null, and then let's say we're gonna have Emmanuel again. Control S when I save it, then let's rerun the application. Now again let's add Natasha, then let's add Tabo, say enter. Then let's say we want to quit. Okay guys, I think when I have a problem because we are leaving another line over here, but then okay, now let's see. Let me say okay. There we go. We have Tabo, Natasha, and Emmanuel, but then I'm not happy with the spacing over here. Guys, everything is working properly, it's working perfect, there's no error, but I don't want these spaces between the names. So now I should just remove one /n, which is gonna be, let's say this one. I'll just remove that one. Now let's run the application. Before we do that, let's just remove everything in our text file, then leave Emmanuel, Control S, save it, then let's run it. There we go. Now again let's add Natasha, then we add Tabo, then we add Amanda. Nope. Guys, what am I doing? Oh, come on. Okay guys, now it went back to the part where it writes everything in one line. So I just removed something over here which was /n. No, I should have removed this one. Oh god, what am I doing? This is embarrassing. Like it's embarrassing, guys. Come on, this is so embarrassing. Come on. Okay, now guys, let's just save our text file. Let's see if it will work this time. Oh god, please let it work. Okay, let's see. I want to add Natasha. Enter. There we go. Oh, perfect. Now let's say we want to add Amanda. Perfect. Let's add Tabo. Sweet Jesus, that is perfect. Okay, now let's see quit. Let's say we want to enter quit. Let's see what's gonna happen. Now we have Tabo, Amanda, and Natasha, and Emmanuel. Guys, now our application is working properly. Now everything is working 100%. So yep, guys, that's it for this video. Guys, don't forget to leave a comment if you have any comment or any question to ask. Feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a like at the end of this video. Please guys, please, if you have any question, just feel free to leave a comment. Again, don't forget to subscribe. Then I'll see you in my next videos. Cheers.